call to order the Tuesday, November 5th, 2019 meeting of the Idle County Board of Commissioners. And I would ask everyone at this time to please bow your head in silent prayer. If you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Ms. Jones, can you please review any adjustments to the agenda?
Yes, sir, Chairman Mallory. We have one addition, which is an item under new business, and that will be a discussion regarding commissioner meeting rules and procedures.
Okay. Is there any additional adjustments to the agenda? I have a motion to approve the agenda as adjusted.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Motion by Commissioner Norman. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously. We have no special recognitions or awards this evening and no appointments for the board. So we'll move directly into public hearings. We'll start with item 7.1, which is a public hearing to consider a request by Joyce Johnson to release zoning and subdivision jurisdiction of 2 parcels totaling 4.43 acres to the Town of Mooresville. And Mr. Matthew Todd, if you'd please share with us, give us the once-over.
This is an ETJ request by the property owner. Property is outlined in blue on the map. There is some current commercial uses and residential uses on the 2 properties. It's across the road from Food Line and a Dollar General in the vicinity. This is the map again showing the property, the current zoning of the property, also surrounded predominantly by Mooresville's jurisdiction. The County 2030 Horizon Plan shows for this area to be rural commercial. The property owners have applied for annexation with the Town of Mooresville, which will be considered in December of this year. And I'd be happy to answer any further questions.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Todd? Okay. Does anyone like to make a presentation relative to the applicant? Hearing none, go ahead and open the public hearing. I have 2 individuals signed up. Start with Warren Dunford. I just came to answer any questions on behalf of the zone. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Dunford. And William Manel. Okay. If you want to be heard, if you'll go to the podium and please state your name and your address for the record.
My name is William Manella. I'm the president of the HOA in Johnson Manor. I guess my question is I'm concerned about my residents that live in Johnson Manor. I'm concerned about where the access to that property will be, whether it's from Markingale or from Shears Road or from Rocky River Road. If they use it for commercial use or residential use, that's up to Mrs. Johnson, what she wants to do with it. I have no problem with that. My question is, how will that piece of property be accessed? That's a very big concern of mine. I don't want to be accessed from Martingale, that's for sure. We have residents that live there. We're living there quite a few years. It's a big concern about having traffic coming through Martingale onto the residents, into that piece of parcel land. Now, I hear it's going to be commercial. I hear it's going to be residential. I don't know what's been designated for what as yet. But I think the residents in Johnson Manor and my board should be informed of any applicants being submitted for that parcel of land. I think we should be written to or addressed. That's what I have to say. That's what I feel will be very important for the people there. I'm only looking out for these people there. There's 114 families. I have like 60 residents on that one block. Most of those people are elderly. I don't want traffic going up and down the block. I want it, if it's a piece of property that's going to be used, I want it to conform with the regulations of Mooresville, which state about lighting and noise and so on, privacy things, privacy restrictions. Those are my concerns.
Mr. Manelli, basically, this is to release the property to the jurisdiction of Mooresville. And so all of those issues that you've raised, whether it's ingress and egress, lighting, setbacks, and all of that will have to conform with Mooresville town regulations. And that whole process would involve a hearing relative to the approval of any site-specific plans.
I see.
So,
Well, we've been informed of the meeting, excuse my ignorance, but will they inform the public of so we could all attend this meeting? So we could voice our opinions at that point?
well,
If it is going to be a permitted by right, if the zoning is not going to be changed, then the applicant will need to submit a site plan sketch to the planning department, and it would not go to planning board or town board. But now, if there's going to be a zoning change, then there would be public hearings involved. I think it's very unlikely that that corner is going to go residential. That is a high-traffic area, and even the county has it as rural commercial. So I feel sure the city has that in their land use development plan, or their Mooresville 1 plan is most likely slated that it would be commercial. I'm sure you could find out when the plans are submitted to town planning. If you could contact them, they could probably give you an overview of what's going to be there. At this particular time, there is no site-specific plan.
So there's no application for the property as yet? Okay.
And the town of Mooresville's development rules are a lot more restrictive than ours. So
It'll be better for you as a neighbor if it develops under Mooresville, because they aren't more restrictive on development than the county is. The county has to provide a plan that works from exit 33 to exit 65, but Mooresville is more of a concentrated effort there.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, sir.
thank you, Mr. Manel. I don't believe anyone else is signed up to be heard on this matter. Does anyone in the audience that hasn't had an opportunity to sign up, would you like to be heard? Well, seeing and hearing none, I will close the public hearing. Is there any further discussion? Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion. I have watched this piece of property virtually all my life. I grew up in that neighborhood. I've hauled hay all back down in Martindale. It is a changing time in Mooresville. We have a lot of residential development in the southeast end of Mooresville, and with that residential development, there comes a need for grocery stores and gas stations and some of the other things that typically accompany that. I think this is appropriate that we release this jurisdiction to Mooresville. And with that said, I would motion to approve the request for the release of the zoning and subdivision jurisdiction to the town of Mooresville by Ms. Joyce Johnson.
Motion by Vice Chairman Bowles. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you for your raising issues and certainly engage with the town of Mooresville and the property owners. I'm sure that they want to, address concerns of local community members, to be a good neighbor, as we all do. So, thank you much.
Thank you.
We'll move on to item 7.2, and Mr. Todd again, if you could tee that up. Public hearing to consider a request from John and Karen Michaels to rezone a 0.87 acre parcel along Oakridge Farm Highway from neighborhood business NB to residential agricultural RA.
Yes, the property in question is outlined in blue, currently neighborhood business, and the request is to rezone to residential agricultural. It is adjacent to existing residential agricultural and an existing residential neighborhood. Staff does support this request based on the 2030 Horizon Plan, calls for agricultural residential use designation for part of this property. It adjoins established residential properties, and rezoning should not have a negative impact on traffic. This is the 2030 Horizon Plan, again showing the rural commercial designated area, with this largely falling into the agricultural residential area. The property has a current house on it with some existing outbuildings. You can see some of the adjacent residential and commercial uses in the area. Planning Board did vote 7-0 to recommend in support of this request. That's looking east along 150, 152, directly across the road, and back toward Mooresville with the site on our right. And I'd be happy to answer any questions regarding this request.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Todd? No. Hearing none. Is there anyone else to make any presentation before we go to the public hearing? I will therefore open the public hearing, and no one has signed up to be heard, so I would inquire of the folks in attendance if anyone would like to be heard. Well, seeing and hearing none, I will close the public meeting. And is there any further discussion? And ask for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion to approve the zoning map amendment and to make the finding that the approval is consistent with the adopted 2030 Horizon Plan, that said approval is reasonable and in the public interest, and furthers the goals of the 2030 Horizon Plan because it is within an agricultural residential designation. It adjoins established residential properties, and traffic impact should be decreased.
Motion by Commissioner Robertson. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. 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 Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you all. Thank you. We don't see too many requests where it goes from a commercial to an RA.
So what are you planting in the back 40?
Well,
Thanks for coming.
You have a beautiful home.
Appreciate you coming.
When does that go up on the website, the change?
Mr. Todd?
We'll change it tomorrow, but it may take just a few days to show up. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Move on to item 7.3, which is a public hearing to consider a request from Piedmont Landco, LLC, to rezone 2 parcels, approximately 33.5 acres along Houston Road from residential agricultural RA to general business GB. Mr. Todd?
This request, again, is outlined in blue on the screen off Houston Road, 33.5 acres. Staff does support this request based on the 2030 Horizon Plan calling for this area to be employment center, industrial flex, office use. Past site suitability study supports commercial industrial development based on the utilities in the area, and it's adjacent to existing commercially used properties. Planning Board did vote 7-0 to recommend approval of this request as well. This is the Horizon Plan showing the area in green to be that employment center. Does it show up as well on that screen? Property, for the most part, is currently vacant. You do see the commercial uses in the area as well as some residential uses in behind the property. With the current development standards, they will be required to put some to have some screening and buffering back here along the residential houses. They may be able to take advantage of the existing vegetation, but there will be some requirements there, as well as some landscaping along the road, and depending on their parking, potentially some landscaping requirements around their parking areas. View looking on Houston Road, you can see kind of the commercial property across the road. Looking back toward the interstate. And I'd be happy to answer any questions regarding this request.
Was there any public input at the planning board meeting?
We did not have, there was no public in attendance, and we did not hear any public concern regarding this request over the last few weeks.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Any further questions? I'd like to open the public hearing, and Mr. Howard Bryan is here and signed up, and I know he is representing the ownership that is looking for this rezoning. Anything you'd like to add, Mr. Bryan?
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, I don't have any comments on this. This is directly across the street from Lowe's Planter Building. So that property on Houston Road, we do have a business that is poised to begin construction within 2 or 3 weeks of this rezoning.
Very good.
The only we were curious as to what sort of industry type, because we didn't know how that would affect the subdivision in the back, even though a lot of that property probably isn't usable for, can you share anything with us about how that property is likely to be used?
How it's likely to develop?
Yes.
Commissioner, I think it's likely to develop into 5 to 10 acre tracts. There should be about 4 or 5 businesses. All of the businesses on this property will access by way of Houston Road. All of the residential that you see on Summer Creek will access all of Mooresville Road. That entire subdivision is pretty much built out. I'd say it's 80% occupied by single-wide homes. And we know quite a few people who live there. They're perfectly satisfied with the change in the zone.
Thank you, Mr. Bryan. And thank you for your service to the county.
And the state?
Yes.
The state.
Well, that's,
you as a state senator.
well, representing the county. So, any further discussion? Then I will close the public hearing and ask if there's a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the zoning map amendment and to make a finding that the approval is consistent with the adopted 2030 Horizon Plan, and that said approval is reasonable and in the public interest and furthers the goals of the 2030 Horizon Plan because it is within the employment center, industrial flex office, commercial designation. Site suitability analysis supports commercial industrial development, and it is adjacent to existing commercially used properties.
Motion on the floor by Commissioner Houp. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Bryan. We look forward to hearing what kind of businesses are moving in.
Thanks, sir.
This time we will move on to item 8, administrative matters that are appropriate for our consent agenda. These matters have been discussed at our pre-agenda meeting at 5 o'clock, and I would remind everyone that is an open meeting in this same location, and that anyone is welcome to be here to hear these typically technical matters that are presented by staff. So at this point, Ms. Jones, if you'd please summarize those administrative matters appropriate for the consent agenda.
Okay, thank you, Chairman Mallory. The first item is a request from Planning and Development to consider calling for a public hearing on November the 19th, 2019, in regard to text amendments to the Land Development Code. There was a request from the Health Department for approval of Budget Amendment Number 9 to accept Bright Ideas grant funds in the amount of $49,500 to purchase cold chain management equipment. A request from Parks and Recreation for approval of Budget Amendment Number 10 to accept a grant in the amount of $5,000 from USA Archery. A request from the Clerk to the Board for approval of the 2020 meeting calendar with 2 revisions. One was to modify the fall retreat from November to December the 11th, and the other was to modify the winter retreat to February the 21st and 22nd. And then finally, a request from the Clerk to the Board for approval of minutes from October 1st and 15th, 2019.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda or the consent items?
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Norman. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously. Item 9, announcement of vacancies occurring on boards and commissions. Item 9.1, we have 2 announcements for the Central Line Economic Development District Board of Directors. Those positions will be filled 2 weeks from now, and if anyone's interested, they can apply on the county website through an application process, and they will be duly considered. Item 10, appointments to boards and commission. We have 1 appointment available for the Recreation Advisory Board. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, make a motion that we appoint Deborah Tattoo to serve in that position.
Okay. Motion to appoint Deborah Tattoo. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those like sign, motion carries unanimously. We had 1 item of new business under item 13. We had a discussion at the pre-agenda meeting concerning changing some of the internal rules of the board relative to remote participation of members when they are not able to attend a scheduled board meeting by telephone or video teleconference, whatever the appropriate technology is that's available. We had a good discussion. We've asked the county attorney to put together a rule presentation option to address the frequency in terms of limiting the number of times that a commissioner could avail themselves of this option. It is an option. If a commissioner is absent, then they would not have to participate by remote means. It also addresses, I believe by consensus, that we have to have a quorum of commissioners present physically in order for that hearing to proceed, that we would not consider someone who was coming in remotely as satisfying a quorum requirement. So we've communicated those ideas to the county attorney. She will present those for our discussion and action at the next board meeting. And that was a request by Commissioner Halp, I might note. And I appreciate the research that you did. Okay. Anything further on that item? County Manager's Report. Ms. Jones?
2 brief announcements. The first is just a reminder that the Commissioner's Fall Retreat is scheduled for November the 15th from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Public Library. The next announcement is just to remind everyone that county offices will be closed on Monday in observance of Veterans Day, and to thank all of our veterans for their services, some of which are sitting on this board. And I appreciate your service.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. And just a reminder that all county board retreats are public meetings. They are open to the public, and we encourage and invite people to come. We try to hold these meetings at different county offices and activities throughout the county to highlight and showcase the hard work that goes on throughout the county and folks working in lots of different fields. So this will be an opportunity for folks to take a good hard look at the county library.
Well, and I will add, there was a method to the madness as far as selecting the library for the location. We'd like to show the board the first floor renovations that we're almost complete with, and we're gearing it up to reopen to the public by the end of the year. So that'll be an opportunity for the board to see the work there.
Provide a special invite to former Commissioner, now Representative McNeely.
Yes, absolutely.
For his tireless efforts.
Yeah. Okay. We did have a closed session, attorney-client discussion pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11 subsection A3. There are no actionable items to report out of that discussion. Is there anything further to come before the commission this evening? All hearts free? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion to adjourn. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously. We are adjourned.